Hello again, everybody. Witch Doctor here, looking at the markets, and I'm currently looking at the intra-week activity of the major currencies that we take a look at. As you know, looking at the dollar index futures and comparing it across the board with the major currencies. You got the dollar on the 4-hour chart on the far left here, followed by the yen, Swiss yen, the Canadian across the top, the euro, the pound, the Australian dollar across the bottom. And what we're doing is comparing this week's activity as we look at it in comparison to last week's. And the first thing I want to do is take a look at the dollar index real quick, and hopefully that'll give us a little bit of an overview. And as we take a look at last week's activity, of course, I'm going to highlight this area in the dollar index, and what I'm doing is comparing this price action as to what we're seeing this week. And the first thing that jumps out of mind here is the fact that we've been able to come up here and test last week's high, and the market got rejected. So we're using last week's high as resistance, and we've steadily moved off of this level. This sets up for the early part of the week, and this is kind of what I was alluding to, was that in my premium video talking about the fact that we were going to move up in the beginning of the week potentially, and then see if the dollar index was going to reassert the downward potential going into the back end of the week. So as you can see, the dollar has pretty much been setting up for an inside week if we cannot get outside of this previous week's trading range. You can see here that we're running into resistance up here at last week's high, but we haven't been able to come down here to towards last week's low. I mean, comparatively speaking, we're in the upper range of last week's trading range, and so that's kind of important because it tells us here that the bulls are really trying to push this dollar up through a key level that we're looking at on the daily charts, most notably this daily trend line here that I'm watching. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in a moment, but you can see also nothing really going on in the yen. The yen basically chopping sideways here inside of last week's trading range. The Swiss franc has tried to move up, not able to move up towards last week's high, failing closely thereabouts, which is part of the reason why you could have looked at the dollar index for a little bit of confirmation here. Notice that the dollar hit last week's high, but the Swiss franc had not been able to make it all the way up there. At the same time, you had the Swiss franc basically still inside of last week's trading range, and the Canadian dollar here, inside of last week's trading range, and it hasn't been able to do anything, not even able to go up towards the highs like the Swissy. So these two, in comparison, are telling us that the dollar is really not in a position of strength right now. In terms of like when it did try to go up to the highs, same thing with the euro. The euro did not push down below the previous week's trading range low, and because of that, that provides a little bit more insight that the dollar really is not setting up for a little bit of strength at this point. So now I'm watching here to see if we're going to roll over and head towards the lows in the euro, or if we're going to continue to rally back into the to the back end of the week, potentially move our way up to the previous week's closing price or the previous week's low. You can see here that the pound here continues to press on. We're moving down below the 160 even area, and we're able to push down to 159 and change so far this week. But you can see this minor double bottom that sets up here, and its potential that if we can get back above this 160.50, this may set up for a move, obviously, to the previous week's low, at which point I think there's going to be a little bit of resistance. But at this point, as long as we can stay above this low that's been established earlier on in the week, it looks like we're setting up for a move, at least a little bit of a retracement back into the upper part of this lower range here. And same thing with the Australian dollar, not able to move down below the previous week's low, essentially using it as support, and right now we're in retracement mode. So overall, it looks like the market is not ready to move outside of last week's trading range. You can see that basically the whole entire market, in terms of all the major currencies except for the pound, that's a good 6 out of 7 currencies here that you're looking at are all inside of last week's trading range. So it tells me that the market is really in limbo, and that they're probably waiting for a sense of direction and a little bit more cue to come about from probably some stock market action, or to get a little bit of to find out what the dollar's going to do. As soon as the dollar starts to run in one direction or another, then I can tell you that we're going to get a little bit more insight as to what the rest of the markets want to do. So that's all I got for this market wrap, folks. This is Wish Doctor signing off. I hope it helps. Good luck in your trading out there. Stay safe. Best regards to all. We'll see you the next market. While I got you here, I wanted to take a quick moment to say that if you really liked what you're looking at here in the free Forex market wrap video, I wanted to give you the opportunity to come take a look at the premium weekly Forex market wrap video that I do every week. And basically it's a little bit more in depth, or should I say a lot more in depth information about the markets that I cover. And you can see here that in this short video I go over the basics about what I've been looking at on the major currencies. In the more in-depth market wrap video, I take a look at a in-depth analysis on the 6 major currency pairs. You also get actionable trading scenarios. The important thing here is that we're offering a 3-day risk-free trial, so you don't have to pay a cent. It's about a 30 to 45 minute video that'll go through all the major currency pairs that I look at, and it shows you a lot more in-depth analysis and forecast, looking at the longer term picture and the big major trends that are affecting what you're looking at on the lower time frames that you're looking at on a day-to-day basis. So take a moment to go take a look at the premium market wrap video. You can see the link here provided, www.traderstouch.com/3day, and it also includes a free membership to the Traders Learning Network, where you can meet other traders that are like-minded individuals, and they're basically there to help everybody looking at the same markets as you. So good luck, hope it helps, and look forward to seeing you on the inside.